Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the opening of the Quran's longest chapter, Al-Baqarah. Now, it kicks off with a really bold claim that it's a perfect guide. But a guide for who exactly? And against what? We're going to break down how this text basically sorts all of humanity into different groups, all based on this one powerful idea, guidance. So, right out of the gate, we get this incredibly confident statement. This is the book. There is no doubt about it. But what's really fascinating is that very next line. It says, it's a guide, but not just for anybody. It's for a specific group it calls the mindful. So who are they? And what does it even mean to be part of this intended audience?
All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at who these mindful people are. Then we'll get into the 3 different ways people react to this guidance. After that, we'll dive into some really powerful stories, parables of light and darkness that illustrate these reactions. Then we'll see how the message suddenly zooms out to this universal call. And finally, we'll ask the big question: why even use metaphors like this in the first place?
So the text claims it's a guide, right? But for who, specifically? It points to this group, the mindful, and then, pretty helpfully, it lays out exactly what that means. Let's break down the qualities of this key group. So the source gives us 5 core traits, and you can almost see how they build on each other. It all starts on the inside, with what you believe in your heart, the unseen. Then it moves outward to real, tangible actions like prayer and charity. From there, it gets broader, asking you to believe in all divine messages, not just one. And it all culminates in this rock-solid, certain faith in the hereafter. It's like a complete roadmap for a life of faith. And according to the text, these qualities aren't just, good suggestions. They are the actual path to what it calls true guidance and ultimate success. It's presented as a direct cause and effect. You do this, you get that. Okay, so after laying out this ideal group, the source immediately brings up 2 others. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it basically creates a map of the 3 fundamental ways that people can respond to this message. This table just lays it all out so clearly. You've got 3 totally different paths. On one side, you have the believers. They accept the guidance and they're called successful. In the middle, the disbelievers. They flat out reject it, and their condition is described as their hearts being sealed. But then there's this third group, and they're way more complex. The hypocrites. They say they believe, but the text claims their hearts are sick, and what they're really trying to do is deceive. So the text really zooms in on this third group, the hypocrites. It shows us exactly what they do out in public when they're around believers. They say all the right words. We believe. It looks totally convincing on the surface, but that's only half the picture. And here it is, the big reveal. The source immediately pulls back the curtain to show us what happens when they're alone with their friends. Their private reality is a complete 180 from their public one. And it's this huge gap, this stark contrast, that really defines their character as hypocrites. So how can we really get our heads around the inner world of this group? It's a pretty abstract idea, right? Hypocrisy? Well, to make it feel real and tangible, the source gives us 2 powerful metaphors, and both of them revolve around light versus darkness. Okay, so the first parable starts with this really positive image. Someone starts a fire. They create a source of light and warmth and clarity in the middle of darkness. It seems like they've really achieved something important, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. But then, right at that peak moment, just as the fire is blazing and they can finally see everything around them, a higher power just takes their light away. Poof. The very thing that was guiding them is just gone. And the result is just total desolation. They're left in a darkness so absolute that they're described as deaf, dumb, and blind. Like all their senses have been cut off. It's this terrifying metaphor for being completely lost after you've already had a taste of guidance, with absolutely no way to find your way back. The second parable gives us a different angle. This one feels like it's about a faith that's really weak and conditional. So imagine you're caught in this terrifying storm. It's pitch black, there's thunder, lightning, and out of pure fear, they're plugging their ears. They only take a step forward when there's a quick flash of lightning. But the second it gets dark again, they're just frozen, totally paralyzed. They can't make any real progress. So after going into detail on these 3 very specific groups, the believers, the disbelievers, the hypocrites, the text does something amazing. It just dramatically zooms out. It stops categorizing people and broadens its audience to, well, everyone. And just listen to how the tone changes here. It's no longer about this group or that group. It's a direct address, "O humanity." This is a universal invitation. It asks every single person to worship their creator, and it grounds that request in something that's impossible to argue with, the simple fact that we were all created. And right after this universal call, the source throws down a challenge. It's really direct and confident, and it's aimed at anyone who doubts where this message is coming from. It basically says, look, if you think a human wrote this, go ahead, prove it, write something even remotely like it. It totally flips the script and puts the burden of proof right on the skeptic.
And this brings us to a really crucial question. Why all the metaphors? Why rely on these stories? We've had fire and storms, but the text actually tackles this question head on, and it uses an example of something that seems almost ridiculously small to make its point.
See, the text is incredibly self-aware. It comes right out and says that God isn't above using any example, no matter how small or humble, to teach a deeper truth, even something as everyday as a mosquito. It's like it's anticipating the criticism that you can't use such a simple thing to explain something divine. And this, right here, is the brilliant payoff that ties this whole section together. The parable itself actually becomes a test. The exact same story about a mosquito gets two totally opposite reactions. The believers hear it and they know this is the truth from our Lord. But the disbelievers just get cynical and ask, what on earth is the point of a parable like this? The metaphor itself works like a filter, and it reveals the true state of the listener's heart.
And the text just leaves that cynical question from the disbelievers hanging in the air. It forces us, the readers, to ask ourselves, when we hear a message or a story or any kind of guidance and we don't get it, where's the problem? Is it in the message? Or is it in our own readiness or our own refusal to see the truth that it might be pointing to? It's a really powerful final thought about how we ourselves actually find meaning.